Today I'm going to teach you how to make a Valentine's Day card using your sewing machine, the Octi-Hoops, our stick and rinse stabilizer, and some thread. I save gift cards, just about every card that was ever given to me throughout my entire lifetime. My mom started me on it as this is one of the Valentines I gave her when I was just a little girl. There's just something to be said for opening up that envelope and seeing the card that is enclosed. And so I thought, wouldn't it be nice to make a embroidered Valentine's Day card? This is what you're going to learn how to make using a real gift card as the template for the card itself. And I bought these at the dollar store, a card and envelope. And when you're done with the embroidery, you can even put the card back inside the original envelope so you don't have to worry about the card getting too large for the envelope. And won't that be a nice surprise for your loved one on Valentine's Day? So how do we do it? First thing you do is remove the paper from the inside of the gift card that you've chosen. And choose it based on what it says inside, not what it has on the outside. So if it says something that's sentimental to you, or if you want, you can actually print your own from your computer and not buy a card at all. Just use cardstock and a pretty piece of paper that you already have. So if you do buy a card that's already made, you're going to peel it off. Some of the paper may end up getting peeled off of the paper, and that's why on the inside of the card we'll be adding a strip of fabric. Or you can use a pretty ribbon or some very beautiful lace that you might have laying around. So the first thing we do is print out the design using a regular piece of inkjet paper. You just print it out and write top upside down on the, or top right side up, no, top upside down on a piece of paper, put it in the printer, print it, and then you'll know which side the printer spits it out, top right side up or top upside down, whichever one you chose to write. After you've printed on the paper, you now know where to apply our stick and rinse stabilizer, and make sure that the shiny side is down. The shiny side is the release liner. You print on that, the ink will not be on the stabilizer at all. Then after you've applied the stick and rinse stabilizer using ordinary Scotch tape, you then put it right back in your printer, top upside down or top right side up, whichever way you wrote it. And when it comes out, you get a sticker that you can now peel off the paper. And this sticker is our embroidery template. Now, one of the most difficult things of using the stick and rinse stabilizer is getting the release liner off of the stabilizer. Scotch tape is your answer. So you just take a piece of tape and rub it on the corner and then peel, kind of bend it, and as you bend it, it peels back and the release liner separates easily from the stick and rinse stabilizer, and you're now ready to attach it to your fabric. But before attaching this to the fabric, we want to cut it to the right size. And to determine that, we use a gift card. The outer shell of the card that you chose to use is the template that you use to cut your fabric, and you want to make sure you cut at least 1 inch wider all the way around. Once you've done that, and I chose red bridal satin, really pretty, and then you adhere your stick and rinse stabilizer to the fabric. You want to make sure that you do it straight. So use a ruler to measure from the bottom edge of the fabric to the bottom edge of the embroidery that you've chosen to do. If you didn't choose to do the design that you can download from our YouTube channel. Now here we have 3 Octi-Hoops. And the smallest frame would actually fit the embroidery, except for it would be really tight and you might be a little nervous, especially if you're new at using the Octi-Hoops. So I'm going to choose the next size up, which gives me a comfortable area or distance away from the frame itself, so I won't be nervous that I might hit that with my sewing machine needle. Then we set the others aside. And you're going to take and trace your outer perimeter of the Octi-Hoop on a stick and tear stabilizer, as I've done here. Stick and tear also has a release liner, and to get this off easier, I fold it and then kind of pull down. And then rather than just peeling it all the way off, I always fold down a little bit like that. And we're going to adhere it to the flat side of the medium size Octi-Hoop. Take and apply the stabilizer to one of the octagon sides. Rub it firmly, and now you just pull. This is a wax, almost like freezer paper, that you can use for any of your freezer paper needs. Take and stretch now on opposite sides firmly, and then rub it. And now we alternate to the next side, and we're going to flip all the way around and go to the next side. I find that if I go around in a clockwise manner, that I end up having it short on one side, so it's better to do opposite sides. It's nice because you can easily lift up the stabilizer to reposition it should you not get it tight or straight. And now we test by tapping, and if it sounds like a drum, well, you're ready to apply your fabric. And I'm going to position this so that you can see the holes on the Octi-Hoop as I embroider, but not so close that it hits the frame. Sometimes being on the diagonal works better. And you really only have to rub the area that's going to be embroidered. For instance, if it was a garment that you wanted to embroider, the rest of the shirt wouldn't need to be stuck to the stabilizer, only the little area that you're going to embroider. Now it's selecting your threads. In this design, I do have a black, dark red, and in a lighter color that you can use either a contrasting color of thread, or you might want to use metallic, which I'm going to show you today because I know a lot of you have trouble with metallic thread, and I'm going to teach you how not to have trouble anymore. And these are high quality 40 weight polyester threads. So if you're wondering what high quality means, well, it should look shiny, it should feel soft through your fingers, you shouldn't feel a lot of big bumps and small, thick and thin, thick and thin. If you do, the tension discs go up and down and open and close, and that causes loop stitches. The brand is up to you, and I'm now going to start with the black on the stabilizer, this stick and rinse stabilizer. Using a black thread in the needle, I'm also going to use black thread in the bobbin. Now you can opt to use matching threads in the bobbin, or to use white for all your light colors and black for all your dark colors. I prefer to use more options in my bobbin. And when I go to do the red, I won't necessarily have a red matching thread, but at least in the same tones as the reds. Pink, purple even would work. Just in case the bobbin thread pops up to the top, it won't be as noticeable. In a perfect world, that would never happen. So now I'm using black bobbin thread. I'll go ahead and remove the presser foot. However your machine is designed. And to aid in filming, I'm going to remove the nut that holds my assembly together as well. If you take your nut off, make sure you put it in a safe place I put mine up here where my thread never goes because I always use my thread dispenser. And that way I don't have to worry about where it goes or where it might disappear to. This is also where I put my screwdriver that's provided by Baby Lock. I'll put that there. And move my other threads out of the way so they're not bothering me. Always make sure that if you have trouble seeing, you wear your glasses. Better to see now than to find out later that you missed an area. This machine has a neat function of automatic needle threader. I push a button and it lowers the foot, opens the tension discs, then it pushes the thread through the needle and makes a little loop. I appreciate that more and more as I get older. Used to be I could thread a needle without looking. Okay, so here is the hoop. I was just looking for it over there. I have my handles, and if you have your Octi-Hoop kit already, you know the handles drop in, which allow you to do the same thing you would do with a pen. So if you were to write with a pen, you would write with your hand down. Make sure that your hand is down as you drop the handle in, and then you're going to write. It's very relaxing to know that black goes on black. In this case, we also want some black to be scattered around inside of the image. I'm selecting a straight stitch and reducing my tension by 1 full tension number. So if it was normal at 4, it's now normal at 3. And if your sewing machine requires you to do so, I lowered my foot. This machine has a button to raise the foot and lower the foot. And if I were to leave the foot up with this machine, it will not let me sew. I sit there and go, why aren't you going? Why aren't you going? And it has this little crybaby face that says, you need to lower the foot. But your machine may not have that, and you're going to find out that you needed to lower the foot when your machine jams. So always give it a little love pat. Make sure your press foot is down. And in the case of some machines, you'll have to bring your bobbin thread up and pull it over to the side. This machine doesn't require that, so sometimes I can't even get the bobbin thread to come up. There we go. Now, I like to stitch a little bit and then come back to the area and then go away from it again, and then cut your bobbin thread and needle thread. These are what I call tails, and if you don't trim your tail, it will eventually cause you to not sew where you want, because when you get going with the Octi-Hoops, it's so much fun that if you're like me, you won't want to stop. Now, to convince yourself that you're not doing free motion was normally done with both hands like this and elbows up. You need to practice until you get the hang of it to write. So pretend you're writing with the handle, which is like a crayon. And when you realize that your fingers are only moving, then remember that is the same position that you want to use for the Octi-Hoops. So you can run the machine fast or slow. The slower your machine runs and the faster your hands move, the bigger your stitch gets, which is really neat. You'll see that I place my hand on top, and it's more just for my having something to do with it. No pushing down or actual control is used with that opposite hand. And if you're a left-handed person, then you'll switch to your left hand. And you might find it better to have one of those extended tables if you're left-handed, because of the way sewing machines are designed, the way they come out to the left. So now I just simply continue to color, moving my hand in a controlled, same direction as the design is going. So you see how all of the lines are going in this diagonal direction. The only thing that won't be is the monogram. Go ahead, and you could use a zigzag stitch once you get more comfortable with free motion. And what is true free motion? Free motion is not using a foot. And the feed dogs on this machine are electronic, so I can just push this button and lower the feed dogs. So now you can see that I did all of that with the feed dogs up. It is better for filming to leave them in a lowered position because sometimes they tap on the bottom of the fabric. But outside of that, you shouldn't need to worry about your presser foot or your feed dogs being up or down. And we have a little bit of a snag going on here, I think. Maybe not. I thought there was. So going slow when you feel like it. And if you want to use a zigzag stitch, you can, which is what I was just mentioning before. And you can see there's some black scattered around inside the heart, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Notice that I'm not using the extended table, even though this crescendo has this gigantic one, and it's simply because my table is not conducive to using it. Eventually you'll get to where you'll feel comfortable going this fast. If you start thinking, how can I get this sewing machine to go faster, then you're probably ready for the zigzag technique. So how we do that is we select a zigzag stitch. This machine has a digital screen, so I've selected my zigzag, and I can go as wide as I like. On this machine it goes to 7 millimeters wide. Make sure that if you change your stitch from straight to zigzag on a computerized machine, that you also change the check to make sure that the tension didn't get reverted back to the original tension setting, which this machine does. So I now have taken it 1.5 numbers less than normal, and that's because I'm using such a wide zigzag swing that the thread needs a little bit of a relaxed state in order to do that. Now it's very important that you keep your motion going in the same direction, and here it's a wider area, and if I go too far I'll mess up the design, so now I'm going to narrow my stitch width. And it takes a lot less time to zigzag on your embroidery, but if you suddenly turn your hoop, now your design will look messy. So you want to make sure that whenever using a zigzag stitch, you, if you're going to do a shape that's shaped like this, that you actually have to rotate the hoop in order to follow that shape, which is why I consider the zigzag technique an advanced technique. I would start with a straight stitch and then move your way toward a zigzag stitch. Now, regaining my stitch direction is as easy as seeing that the swing matches the pattern that's there, matches what I've already done. And it does, so now I'm ready to go out. Remember, we did want some black scattered inside the heart, so this is a good project for you to practice inside the middle and go, let's see, how can I get that stitch to do what I want? Okay, definitely got to keep it straight, and so this area in here is like a little playground, a little practice area for you, but don't lay too much thread down, then you start to hear popping, and you know that you've got too much thread. If you get too much thread laid down, you'll simply have too much thread there, and you could break a needle. We want to prevent that from ever happening. Now what I've done here is a zigzag stitch. If I want to remove the stick and rinse stabilizer from the fabric, I will need to rinse this. If I used a straight stitch instead, I could perforate and go really close all the way around the outer perimeter and then tear it away. So I'm going to switch back to the straight stitch, where now my tension has changed again. I'm going to put it back down to 1 number less than normal. And go ahead now and cut. See how many more stitches are placed by the sewing machine. And those stitches placed very close together based on how fast I move my hands and how fast the machine is running will make it so that I can peel the stick and rinse up I'll use my tweezers here. And the longer you leave the stick and rinse on the fabric, the tighter it bonds to it. So you see how I'm just peeling it, and now it has a clean area. So this is what we want to do all the way around the design, is a straight stitch. If you did that before you started, then you could use the zigzag afterward, and I'm going to show you by completing and going all the way around the heart. So straight stitch is done first, going around the outer perimeter, and you can go into it a little bit, doesn't matter. It's mostly that you want to remove the clear part of the sticker on the outside. And isn't it nice that this is clear so that you can see beneath it if you want to line it up just right? Go ahead. Following the outside of the monogram. Now here we go to the dot. Dot, I just completed it. So now I'm going to completely remove all of the stick and rinse around the actual design, and doing so keeping it on a flat surface, pushing down so that the stick and tear stabilizer on the back doesn't get loose, because we want to keep it as tight as a drum. Pulling toward the embroidery is what you want to do. And if any stitches do become loose, just remember you're not done embroidering yet, so you have time to go back over those areas. Stick and rinse stabilizer is water soluble, but if it gets on your carpet, that could be, you know, a cleanup job that you don't want to do. So I always fold my stick and rinse into itself and toss it in the trash right away. I've found it in all kinds of weird places. There we go. Tweezers help you to peel it up because it does have an extremely tight bond on the fabric. Oh, and while I have a piece of Scotch tape that I accidentally left on my template in my hand, I want you to know that you never want to sew through Scotch tape. That adhesive will get onto your needle and cause skip stitches, and you might even have to have your machine serviced. So peel off this, fold down on the stabilizer or on top of the fabric, and pull at an angle, not pulling up but pulling into the embroidery. You can see how nice and clean with no residue on the fabric. Any areas that don't come up, use these wonderful tweezers that I have. Okay, pulling into the embroidery. This has been sitting on this fabric for about a week. Got ready to film, but all kinds of things got in the way. So after a week of sitting on the fabric, still no residue left on the fabric as I peel it off, except for it definitely is harder to peel off than it was or would have been the first day. So you shouldn't have nearly the trouble that I'm having right now. Okay, we go ahead and continue. And you can always do some of the cleanup later, but remember it is going to need to get wet if you use a design that's like a tennis racket, has that small design in between. You can't or should not try to peel that off because your stitches could break in between. And see, now I'm going to turn it this way, and what you've seen so far is me moving it always in the same direction. Now I'm going to move it up and down only because I rotated the hoop. Under the handle again. maintaining the same stitch direction. Based on the hoop's angle, that determines the movement. But now if I had a zigzag stitch on, I would definitely be doing it incorrectly. Because on a zigzag stitch, the needle would be swinging this way, and I need it to go this way. Actually, now that the stick-and-rinse has been torn away on the outer perimeter of the sticker, you could do giant stitches. And if you do giant stitches, do one full stitch on each end, one, like in and in again before going back, and it prevents it from becoming separated. In other words, let me do one. If you do one and you move it, sometimes the thread will pull out and your bobbin thread will come up. So 1, 2, 1, 2, or 3 or 4. And I like using cruise control, speed control on the sewing machine, which I haven't done today for some reason. Speed control gives you one less thing to think about. How fast should I be running the machine? Becomes push it all the way down, pedal to the metal, and you're good to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the monogram because the rest will be red, and since I already have black thread on, no sense in doing the red and then only to change my thread again. One nice thing of doing free motion embroidery versus automatic embroidery is that you can do all of the color that you need to do before switching to the next color in a. Before I begin, I'm going all the way down to a 0 width, which is the same as a straight stitch when you have no presser foot on. And the reason I did that is to tie a secure knot to make sure that that will never come up. It'd be more important if it was a garment than a Valentine's card. And now back to the 3mm wide width. And this is not going to be the only width I use for this monogram. So now it's very important that you keep your hoop in the exact same direction. In other words, no turning at all, or your monogram will look funky. So think of it as a calligraphy pen. If you've ever used a calligraphy pen, they're kind of straight, and if you move your pen to the side, it's a skinny line, and if you move your pen up, it's a wide line. And at a diagonal, it tapers the line. So that's, in essence, the same thing that we're doing when we use a zigzag stitch for monogramming. And in this design, the font, which you can just go ahead and choose on your sewing machine or on your computer if you wanted to print something. So I didn't have to change it on this one, but I will on this. You can see how tiny the little lettering is on the M and the I. But before I just jump from here to there, I'm going to take my width back down to 0 and tie it off. Go over to the M and tie it off, and now switch back. And I'm going to talk a little bit more. I go around and come back, side to side. This area is bigger than the 3mm. Now if you have to go down and back up, and you know that if you're writing with a pen, sometimes your letters require you to go down and back up over them, an M, an N, probably quite a few other letters. And you want to go down fast and come back up slow. Otherwise you'll get too much thread piled up. Now here's where the letter becomes narrower and so I'm going to narrow my width. Otherwise the letter may close up on you. So if you have a wide line and a skinny line on a font, and then you don't change your width, and you do the one side and then you come back down to this other side, that space between those two might close up on you. Now I'm going to switch back to the 3. Very light touch, move down quickly, go back up slower. And there's no rush here, so when I say go down fast, I don't mean go down really fast. I mean go down quicker than you will on the way back. You can run your machine slower as well. So now I'm going to once again narrow my width, and I'm going down to a 1.5 millimeter wide width in between on the skinny lines. Switch back to a 3 and continue down. And this is the part of the M that I don't come back on, so I'm going slow all the way down. And now narrow the width to 1.5 or 2. The plucking sound is because I laid too much thread there when I was cutting the pattern using a straight stitch. And when I hear that plucking, I instinctively bring my fingers closer, but and that's because as the thread is piled up, the needle goes down. There's more thread grabbing the needle, and it could lift the hoop. So that's the only reason I do that. Now I'm going to switch down to my 0 width again and tie off. So now I have my stitch width at 0. Tension is 1.5 numbers less than normal, and that is to compensate for the stretch inside the metallic thread. I'm going to go ahead and I got my handle here, try to keep that fabric from getting in your way, and I just might do this whole part in metallic because I can. Now we're going to switch to the zigzag, or change the width from 0 to 7, that way we don't have to keep remembering our stitch tension changing on this electronic machine. And now I try to sew, and it I thought I left the foot down, or up, because there's so much clearance on this machine. It's nice to not have anything in your way. Now I'm just going, using this zigzag stitch, keeping the same direction that I went before, not steering with that hand. It's just kind of an assistant. And isn't the metallic pretty? Keep the angle the same direction. Oh, we're almost ready to put the card together. And for that I use a glue stick. I think it's Elmer's that I use. One for school. It doesn't dry out as fast as some of the others that I've used over the years. And since I sew more than I craft, I tend to have my glues dry up. Not our basting glue though. The basting glue for sewing does not dry up on you. So now I'm going to narrow my width because of this area here is smaller. Reduce the width down to about a 4. Continue in the side-to-side motion because of the design. And there you go. Let's see. I have good coverage. See, I spin it this way, and now the light shines in. I can see that I missed a whole bunch of areas in here, and probably will fill it in using a straight stitch instead of a zigzag. Straight stitch, 1 number less than normal on the tension, zigzag 1.5 numbers. Find a hole that's comfortable so that your hand is always. So this is me going in, filling in the areas that I missed. If it was a garment, it would matter a lot. Not so much going to matter on this card because the card will never be washed. You can see I missed a lot of areas in the black here that I should also continue and fill in. So now I'm using a scissor button to cut my thread. We're going to go ahead and complete this card. Now if you're using a card that you purchased already at the store, it's going to have ink on the outside and your fabric may not be able to block that color that's underneath. You can almost see a little bit of the dark square beneath that. So what I did here was I took the same stabilizer we used for the back of the hoop and put it over to block the card on the top. I'm going to go ahead now and pull towards the embroidery, just like stick and rinse, except for now we're pulling the fabric toward the embroidery. And underneath the stick and tear ends up just tearing a hole into the stick and tear that's on the hoop. And notice I have it on a flat surface, pushing down on the frame so that I don't let this stretch out. And the reason is because we can patch it with another piece of the stick and tear, something you can't do with all stabilizers. Stick and tear is a patchable stabilizer. So we go ahead now and remove as much as needed, and we don't really have to remove all of that stabilizer. If it were on a garment, you might want to do so. So I apply it to the top of the card. And you might find it easier to do one side of the card at a time. Make sure you go all the way to the edge. And keep in mind I cut this fabric an inch wider all the way around, so that helps me to make it straight on the card. And if you have your ruler handy, you could verify that you have that in position. And now we're ready to glue the back part of the card. While the card is closed, you close the fabric on it. And the reason you want to do that is because fabric is thicker than the paper. And if you do it open, you might not be able to close the card. So this gives us a little bit of extra gap on the outer perimeter of the card. And you can reposition it until you get it perfect. Now on the inside, the insert that you pulled off will actually be covering the edges of the card underneath. But before we do that, we have to get these edges all underneath. So we do that by taking more of this glue stick and going along the edge. And the thing about the satin is it sheds and has little strands that come off, which I think is really neat. So I didn't stop it from doing that. Go ahead and go all the way down 1/2 of the card. And we're going to pull in tight. The corners are done after. This is so fun for a sewer to also get to play with the craft stuff. So if you have craft paper, if you do scrapbooking, you could really have some fun with this. Take different shapes and cover them with fabric and add them to your cards as well. If you want to do someone's face, you can embroider the eyes or the mouth or something. Now inside of this little, almost looks like a rose petal or the rosebud. Put a little dollop in there and we spread it out. So it lays nice and flat, and on the outside of the card you have a little bit of time to try to make it more of a point. go. Repeat that on all 4 sides of the card. Okay, so this is the card that I actually already started getting ready, and what I did was, knowing that the paper at single layer, which this card is a double layer, if you were to take a single layer of fabric and put it underneath or over this, the red fabric would show through. So instead of a single layer, you glue a piece of paper over, or you could use our stick and tear stabilizer again. Paper's cheaper though. You could even use spray adhesive on the back of the card and then stick it onto a piece of paper and then wrap your center strip of fabric or ribbon, if you choose to use ribbon, and go around the back side, or plan ahead, and before you cut or stick your paper onto the back side, tuck inside and in between your ribbon so that on the back it's nice and clean and it has a better looking edge there. So it's a little too chilly to go outside with my spray adhesive. This is an alternative, but remember this does have a water in the glue, so I'm going to kind of spread it out. This will help absorb some of the water, and it's a purified water, so there's no risk to my health. It's not a real adhesive, it's a glue. It's not even a glue, it's more of a water-soluble stabilizer that's wet. Now we can position this card, and before you just put it down, figure out which side you embroidered on so you don't put it on upside down. So if I were to open that card, there we go. Remember, I liked this frame so much, I actually encouraged it to happen. It's a good idea to flip this upside down, put a book on top of it to let it hold or set, and then you now can take your card and put it into the envelope after you've put a personal message inside. And you have given somebody a special Valentine's. But this must be the envelope for the other card. Oh, probably. Here we go. Don't mix up your envelopes. Certainly was. There we go. And it closes up nice. And then afterward they can set it down on top of their table or their dresser. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this Valentine's Day card. Happy Valentine's Day, and see you next episode.